Hey guys, welcome to May's full moon tarot reading. I'm here with a full moon in Sagittarius tarot spread that I have pulled for us all. And yeah, I'm gonna just go through it because I've been sat here trying to figure it out for a little while. I did kind of pull it and go, no idea what this means. And probably that's because, like many of you, I think this will resonate quite a lot. So, because it was quite personal to me, I think it was just a bit more difficult for me to gain some clarity around it. But it's a really nice, healing, moving forward, positive spread that we have for this full moon in Sagittarius. I am kind of like looking up at you like this because it's the only way I could figure out how to at least get the cards in into frame. So don't mind me. I'm gonna have a terrible neck. I'll have to do some yoga later. So let's have a look, shall we? So first of all, things to note. We have two major arcana cards in today's tarot reading. We have the Empress and we have Temperance. So already we have this very nurturing, a need for kind of self-preservation, a need for self-care, and kind of just paying more attention, being very mindful about our own well-being. So that's a good place to kind of start. It's a good foundation for the reading overall. Next thing I wanted to point out before we start going through card by card is that we have the Nine of Wands, the Nine of Swords, and the Eight of Cups in this diagonal line going up. So there is this kind of energy of moving away from things, about processing things in order to get to that next place, to get to that next stage, to start a new cycle. So nurturing, lovely, lovely self-care, moving away to really kind of leave things behind, which is kind of teams up with the full moon in Sagittarius quite nicely, because what the full moon in Sagittarius tells us to do is to really analyse our beliefs, our kind of who we are at our core, and seeing what we are aligned with and what we are no longer aligned with. So that's kind of what we are seeing anyway in our spread. So let's just get going, shall we? First card we have is, I'm going to put it up, even though last time I did this it didn't focus, but whatever. Ace of Pentacles is our past card. So, Ace of Pentacles, this gift of earth, of grounding, of kind of just being able to really, the universe giving you this opportunity to really ground yourself in a new way. So this is in the past. So this is something that has happened over like the last month or so. If you're in the UK, that could very well be, I'm just going to flip my thing back, could be the lifting of restrictions. It could be you kind of being able and having the choice to get out there, get back to normal, all that kind of good stuff. But it is really an invitation, an opportunity to assess your material world, assess your external world, assess how you Nope, don't know what word I was trying to use. It's a good day. Assess how you are kind of grounded in the present and what that kind of means for you. So it may be a case of things have happened over the past month that have really got you thinking about those things. Obviously we're going back to normal, so what does that new normal look like? We've all changed in this past 2 years a lot of us have been doing a lot of personal development, spiritual development. So it's really thinking about, what do you want your everyday to look like from now on, because now you have the space and the opportunity to think about it. So that's kind of what is sparked us off. That's what is kind of pushing us forward into the rest of the spread. So in the present section, we have a really strong energy of just taking care of yourself and being able to understand the areas where you need a bit more self-care, you need a bit more self-compassion. So we have, again, we're going to hold it up, don't care if it focuses or not, because I'm going to tell you what it is anyway, so who cares. 5 of Pentacles in the present position, and on top of that we have our first major arcana card, which is Temperance. So all about that moderation, about really being mindful of how we feel, the balance within ourselves. It's a very kind of water-based card, I feel anyway, mostly just because there's a lot of water on the card. So I kind of feel like it's more of an emotional balance rather than it being an external one. So it's a very internal one. With the 5 of Pentacles in the present position, obviously it's a big card around isolation, whether that is physical isolation or just you mentally being very isolated and disconnected from the world around you. And what this kind of says to me, and I'll touch on the Empress card, which is above this as well. So what this says to me is that we have to be really mindful of our expectations about what our lives look like coming out of this kind of lockdown hibernation period. I'm going to call it hibernation. I don't like the term lockdown, it sounds very harsh, even though that is exactly what it is. So personally, we're in our own kind of hibernation period and we're starting to kind of emerge out of that. So it's about being able to be mindful of just how we feel day to day, what our thoughts are, what our boundaries are, what our fears are. And again, we're going to see that a bit later on in the spread. But really just being mindful of that and being able to embrace that and sit in it and say, okay, well, what do I need today? So just being very mindful, not trying to do too much at once, just chill, just kind of moderate yourself, just so that you can kind of cope with it a lot better. And again, build a world like we have in the Ace of Pentacles, building a world that we feel emotionally and physically stable in. So we don't want to rush things. So I'm going to carry on moving through this middle section, and what we have next is 9 of Swords. So if we rush into things, if we try and live the life that we had before this hibernation period, it may be that mentally, because we've changed so much, that we really struggle to kind of reconnect with that. So it's about really assessing what our lives look like now. So not really thinking about what they look like before lockdown, what they look like as we emerge. So the world has changed, we have changed. So expecting to do things and feel the same way about them than we did before the lockdown may be a lot. It might be mentally too much for us to kind of cope with. So we really, again, if we can embrace that Temperance card and really be mindful and moderate ourselves, find that balance, being able to say, actually, I don't want to go and have coffee with someone today, that's completely fine. If it means that you're not going to be riddled with anxiety for the entire day before you go out to get a coffee with someone, that's fine. So really just assessing every day and not allowing yourself to put too much on yourself and give yourself too many expectations. And as we kind of go into the external card, that kind of what is the universe bringing to us? How are we meeting the universe? We have Queen of Pentacles. So Queen of Pentacles and the Empress that we have up here, very similar energies, that kind of nurturing of our natural world, what is going on around us. So again, just saying, being realistic really is what she kind of brings to us. But being realistic in a way that's not really harsh. Like, it's not like you're being ridiculous. This is how things are. This is how you have to cope with them. Get on with it. Keep calm and carry on kind of thing. She is more of a softer kind of guidance into that being realistic and being able to see things to how they really are. So again, we're looking at our material world, our external world. How can we kind of see things a bit more clearly? How can we get rid of those expectations that we have about us emerging out of this hibernation, going back into the world, what are our expectations, identifying what they are and being able to work through those to try and ease some of this anxiety, to try and ease some of this kind of mental pressure that we may put on ourselves. So yeah, just being very mindful, very grounded. Underneath, I'm going to go to the subconscious position. We have 9 of Wands down in the subconscious, and we also have 6 of Pentacles in the U position. So what that kind of says to me, especially because we've got this line of 998 going up, so the 9 of Wands is that kind of feeling like you have to keep pushing forward no matter what, that need to really push through those barriers. And because it's in the subconscious position, it may be a case of we feel like we have to get back to normal. We feel like we have to be the person that we were before. We have to do the things that we were doing before. And anything that makes us stop and think, maybe I don't want to do that, or maybe I shouldn't do that. Not pushing through that or pushing it away or repressing it, really inviting that in and being able to analyze that and being able to kind of give some space to that. And with that 6 of Pentacles down in the U position, that is again that kind of give and take. Really looking at areas where you can be more compassionate, be more understanding about yourself, about how much you've changed, what in you has changed, and being able to really just allow yourself to have that conversation. So with the 6 of Pentacles down here, if we follow that kind of diagonal line up towards the Empress, we have again that 9 of Swords. So it's having that conversation with ourselves, being able to give ourselves permission to question things as they come up. So for example, if you are someone who used to be very sociable before, and you used to go out a lot, go and get dinner, go get coffee, if that was you before, but you don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable doing that now, being able to say, okay, well, why is that? Analysing that, really having a look into that and accepting it. So instead of being like, well, I did it before, I should be able to do it now, really just appreciating that things have changed both in you and within your external world as well, and being able to just, as if you're kind of talking to someone else, if someone else came to you and said, oh, I'm really nervous about going to the shop, or I'm really nervous about going to get a coffee with my friends, you wouldn't usually say, well, everything's over now, so just get on with it. You would be compassionate. You would say, oh, I feel like this too, or I did feel like this and then I did this, and just having that conversation and being open to having that conversation with yourself will be a huge help as you kind of move forward. So moving up into this conscious position, we have the Empress and we have the 8 of Cups in the hopes and fears position. So this is kind of just saying, again, like we've been talking about, being very compassionate to ourselves, being very open to the fact that even though we can do something, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to do something, but also just accepting the ways that we have changed. So I spoke a little bit about it in the newsletter, where I was saying that there may be things that you did before that you just don't want to do anymore, and that's fine. Like, if you have completely changed as a person, if your values have changed, if what you want out of life has changed, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So instead of kind of seeing this as a period where you have changed for the worse, try and think about how you have changed for the better, and what this kind of hibernation period has allowed you to get rid of. What has it allowed you to identify as being something that maybe didn't serve you before, but you couldn't see it because you were too kind of wrapped up in everything. So with the Empress and the 8 of Cups, really just taking some time to say, what do I want? What do I want out of life? What do I want day to day? What makes me feel happy? And really just reassessing all of those values that you had before. Maybe writing a list of these were my values before, what are my values now? And comparing the two so that you can kind of see how you've changed, where you've come from and where you're going to, and really just gaining a bit more clarity about what is it that makes you happy, what is it that fills you with joy, what is it that you feel actually good about leaving behind and moving away from. Is there anything that kind of habits or anything like that you created, even if it's created over lockdown, that you just didn't think was very healthy? So for example, I ate a lot of biscuits, like a lot of biscuits, and I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been. And I had to identify, first of all, why did I do that? Why did I create that habit in the first place? Okay, it was to make me feel more in control. It was to make me feel more comforted in a situation where I couldn't control it. So really just identifying those parts of yourself that you see as negative and trying to understand it a bit more so that you can say, okay, well, I'm going to leave that behind because I no longer feel that way. I'm going to leave this behind because I no longer need it to keep me going, to keep me feeling grounded, to keep me feeling in control. So if we kind of pair this Eight of Cups with this Ace of Pentacles, it is about that kind of just rewilding what our lives look like. What do our habits look like? Really thinking about the things that we have been doing day to day and saying, is that in my best interest? If not, let's get rid of it and do something else. So we're really coming to this point of, it's a very kind of 9 point in the year, especially as we're coming up to the summer solstice as well, where we have to just kind of assess things. We have to look at things from a very subjective, I can never remember which one's which, but just looking at it from a place of non-bias and being able to see, again, the reality of the situation, being able to kind of step outside yourself and say, this is good for me, this is not good for me, how can I change this, how do I keep doing this if you have kind of developed positive habits, how can I integrate this into this new material world that I'm creating as we come out of this hibernation. So really just assessing, being able to accept the good and the bad, being able to understand where all that kind of comes from, and understanding kind of where we're moving towards. And then the final outcome card, we have Three of Cups. So a really nice outcome card to get that kind of joyous, emotional, supportive kind of energy as we come out of it. So we're trying to move from the Ace of Pentacles to that Three of Cups. So really thinking about habits, health, family, friends, money, work, whatever it is. Really thinking about those things in life. What is it that we want? What is it that we want to create? And then being able to move through all of this kind of self-assessment, this introspection of who we are, who we have become over the last year, 2 years, accepting that person and being able to eventually move to a place where we can celebrate who we currently are in the present and who we will become as the world starts to open up again, who, we want to be as we go back to normal. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do really over the next cycle, but it's all work that we can kind of sit down, take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to just journal it all out, do some pros and cons lists. Really, I think journaling is going to be the main tool for this cycle, and just working through those kind of little dregs of self-doubt or kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That reluctance to kind of accept how we have changed as individuals. So that is what we're going to be working on. That's what I'm going to be working on anyway, and eating less biscuits. That is what I'm going to be working on for the next cycle. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you guys can start to move into a new life, a new day-to-day with a lot more positivity, with a lot more kind of nurturing, self-compassionate energy, and just making the most of what we have. So that is it for this month's reading. I hope that was helpful. And yeah, that's it. I will see you next month for our next full month reading. Bye guys!